How can white and black people get along? Do I get along with black people? Well, some people from my videos, just because I try to expose truth and stuff, some people would think maybe I don't. But you know what? Videos for talking and public platforms, writing, those are for you so you can analyze and look what's true and look at theory, look at some evidences and all that. Do I talk about that stuff in real life? And when you're in line and all those kind of things? No, very rarely. I won't talk about those are controversial subjects. I try to get along with people in real life. So I'll give you my perspective in general. I'll give you a national perspective. I'll give you try to do that real quick here. But you have, um, do I get along? I do get along with most black people, and I've been a person who's been through shelters, so I've been exposed to more gangster types, uh, wounded types, and let's see, people who have been wounded by gangs and things, and Muslims. So in shelters, in the shelter system today, it'd be good to know actually that a lot of the, particularly black Muslims, get in the way and stop uh, the ability of Christian speakers from coming in. They always make a complaint and say it's not fair to y'all can't impose this kind of stuff on us and this and that. And they get somehow through gangs, their gang connections and stuff. A lot of times they take over shelters and they say, oh, the pastor didn't show up. The pastor didn't show up. The pastor didn't show up. In some shelters, that's like that. And so that happens mostly in shelters where they have accepted government funding. You know, the Christian shelters that don't, I mean, start off, Christian shelters basically invented, I mean, Christianity invented homeless shelters, bottom line. I mean, they invented help venues, those kind of charities. And now, and you got Islam and other, especially Islam, trying to mimic and act like they're compassionate and all that, right? They're not. But it's a scheme. They're trying to take over the Christian shelters, and they do stuff with venues. They even have they have Islamic dentists that get government help and funded. And I've run into a lot of the black people I've run into through the shelter help systems. They're always trying. They don't explain everything. They're trying to get you to go to those things, but they won't. So I put it like this: I get along with everybody. So when I say I haven't gotten along with some of the black Muslims, it's because they threaten to kill me because I won't agree with their beliefs, right? And so there's some who try to act like they're Christian and Muslim, and I don't get along with them. But I'll tell you the truth: when I've met white Muslims, they're more violent, more quickly than the black Muslims. I've only run into a few white Muslims, but they're ready to harm me faster than a black Muslim, because I think the black Muslims do, in general, not all of them, they respect the fact that people look at it like it's a racial barrier. So the white Muslims, there's no racial barrier between them and me. They're part of that team that wants to take over and make slaves out of everybody. So I do everything I can to get along with black folks. So do I get along with black gangsters? I don't know if a gangster is a Muslim or an atheist. Gangsters generally won't speak and talk about anything that's all about the money, all about the money, all about the money. So you have, and then they get to cut in line and do all that kind of stuff in those situations. So there's a problem there, though. The shelters need to be there to help people. People should be allowed to talk and all that kind of stuff, and shouldn't have the thieves networks that are tied into gangs and false religion to take over and all that. So you have, and how do I qualify false religion? Because there's no evidence of a God that has the power of life after death. That's a game, set, match. That's a checkmate. I mean, Jesus did that checkmate. He did do that, and the only way around it is to say it was a fairy tale. And a lot of atheists do that, and they end up supporting I know a lot of white atheists, more white atheists than black atheists. I don't know a lot of black people who claim to be atheists, but I'm a person who's been out there, and I've been willing to talk to people everywhere I go, and most of them don't want to talk about anything, right? So, but I've run into people, and it's a lot of times, and from my experience, I don't run into a lot of black atheists. But I've run into a lot of white atheists, and that's the same ones There's a mix. Some of them support Republican, some support Democrat, because I think the atheists, a lot of them tend to be practical thinkers and based on what they can see, and they do see that the Republican Party deters theft, it deters stuff like that, and they feel safer with the Republican Party, which is safer because they do believe in Christ and the Ten Commandments, and so they're confused, a lot of them, but they got some stuff mixed up, but they don't know much about medicine laws, which will be my next video. It'll be a 15-second video. The medicine law should be in 15 seconds. I can do it in 15 seconds, I'm pretty sure. So you have, but that's really what messes up the Republican Party, is science tricking them and acting like scientists. They respect doctors. And thereby they respect scientists, but they don't know scientists. They know the doctors. So doctors support, a lot of them, evolution, not all of them. And because they've been taught that by the scientists. But guess what? Evolution is crooked science, and I'm not allowed to say that. Not allowed to challenge it because there's too much evidence to support what I said. And so I've been blocked from Facebook before for saying something against evolution, and they call it hate speech. Oh my goodness. So, but you need to know the truth. They're trying to make a slave out of people by lying. They've made slaves out of a lot of our black culture. In black culture, you got the drug cartel culture. They don't consider themselves drug cartels. They consider them gangs and receivers, and they're not the ones responsible for it and all that. But in the big picture, they're like the drug cartel, but they're not defined that way. They're defined as they've been discriminated against, and they have poverty and gangs. So, but the ones that turn it into cartel are some of these black Muslims that won't let you speak, and they'll kill you if you speak. So I've gotten along with them the best I can, but I can't when they threaten to kill me, and so I have to get away from them. So I've had to, hold my tongue. And then you don't have too many Christians running the shelters that know what they're doing. They don't know the politics. They say don't talk politics, and then they just let them keep running the shelters, and not in full. They do have stuff they put their foot down on that makes sense. They try to get their speakers in, or else they don't have support from the church. So some of these guys, white and black, that run, sometimes Hispanic, that run sometimes Indian, sometimes not a lot of Arabs, but that end up running shelters. They're bound to the churches that do give charity and support. Otherwise, they're not that fond of Christianity either. Some of them, some of them are coming out of jail and stuff. And so, but where does this Islam come from? It comes from prisons. The Democrats have allowed Islam to take over teaching Islam in prison, basically, and teach Islam and not Christianity in prison. And that's why they're against the death penalty and other reasons. We won't go into that analysis. Let's go. How do we get along? I forgot how I titled this. Whoops. But how do we get along? I get along. I make peace. I go out of my way to make peace. I try not to be a slave. They want you to be their speech slave. You are forced to be the speech slave, literally. You'll die if you don't be a speech slave. So but I still try to get my words in. Like to people out in the streets, I'll use the people who are mean. They're mean and they won't talk at all. That's white people. That's a lot of white people like that too, especially in certain cities more than others, right? They won't speak. They're cranky, alcoholic. They're protecting their drug habit, or not just their habit, but their involvement in keeping the drug flow. So they're part of the dealing group. They're supporting the dealing group in a sense by not speaking. And they have to keep silence or whatever, a lot of them. But they're cranky, they're atheists or whatever they are, I don't know. But when they're really mean and they won't give you directions, and you need food real bad and you need directions to get food, blanket, and they're real mean and won't talk at all. And they think they're all this and they don't want to hear about God or whatever. I just say, I have stuff I say real quick just to get a word in. And it actually caught some of their attention. It surprised, I was like, oh, it really did catch their attention. I do stuff online and you don't get one like, a million people might see it and you won't get one like. So I say zingers such as, and this is what I say to them, and they are mean people, right? And I say, how can people not believe in hell when most people are mean as hell? Adios. And some of it, I realized that it was obvious it caught their attention. And they couldn't, you can't refute that. How can people not believe in hell when most people are mean as hell? So that became something I would commonly say in one particular city, and where people were really rude all the time. And it was anyway. It's something I'll use in the future. So, but I was getting along with them being peaceable, but they can't argue with me. I didn't say where they're going. I just gave evidence of where they're going, of that it makes sense if they went there. So these are people that won't help somebody who needs help, somebody new in town that needs help, and they know where all the help venues are, but they don't want anybody there except for the cartels. They want the whole cartels to take over and not ever help other people who are actually trying to work to get back on their feet. So that I don't know, but they run across all kinds. They run across killers too. So I take that into what's the word? I take that and put that in perspective anyway. But so I go out of my way to get along, and I'll be friendly again the next time I see somebody. Like if a black Muslims threaten to kill me in the shelter system, I play it off. I ignore it. I'm like, okay, well, that's commonplace. That's pretty common to be able to threaten to kill people nowadays. And you can't do anything about it. You can't, and if you do, you're more likely to get killed by warning people this person's threatening to kill people. You can't go to anybody about it. So you do generally, and unless they witnessed it, and they think, oh, you're a scared person. You're talking. If you say something and they didn't witness it, right? So I've had situations where that was witnessed, and I did have people backing me up. That was in a town. Somebody was going to shoot me with a AK-47, and every time I went to the library, they tried to get black guys to jump me, and all the black guys would say, he's cool, we know him. They wouldn't jump me. So he had a bad hip, so he didn't want to jump me himself, apparently. And he apparently couldn't get that AK-47 right away that he was talking about. So I just played that off a few weeks, and just ignored him, and eventually he calmed down. So he saw I wasn't taking revenge or anything like that, and I took a chance. I just kept my distance, and that was all. That was back in 2000 and whatever, the first time when Trump was running for office, and he was threatening anybody in the whole place in the bunks that supports Donald Trump to speak up. And at that time, I'm thinking I like Marco Rubio, but the Trump's okay. I'm not one of those. The ones they falsely claim is like a cult with Trump, and that's a lie. It's not a cult. It's Christianity. But I supported Trump over Hillary back. I think that was Hillary, and obviously over Democrat. I'm not for the Democrat Party. By the way, I'll make a point there. These people say Biden's going to do the same thing when he gets back in office and let 10 million people cross the border, maybe more, I'd say. So he's already let 10 million so far. And he'll do it again. And we don't know if they've let 2 million terrorists cross, something like that. That's suspected terrorists. And so my thing about that is saying Biden, it's the whole Democrat Party, no matter who. And Biden, by the way, he has a team of people helping him now. I'm not worried about his mind being where it is too much, except that a lot of people think we're weak and vulnerable now, and that's why they attacked Israel in part. So, and plus because he helped fund them. He gave them all this oil money, blocked our oil and all that kind of stuff. And actually, Obama helped fund Israel and gave them power to get oil funds. And so that's where this ability to attack and surround Israel has come from. And so and Obama comes out saying, all our hands are dirty. Of course, especially yours. But they have, if you look at the map, Israel just has a little piece of land. It's surrounded by all these Arab nations. Why don't they share that land? There's a lot of land in Egypt still and stuff. Libya has plenty of open land. It's desert-like land almost, but, we're built today to be able to survive in that if you modernize. And so they do, it's not like they need Israel's land. It's hate. It's based on hate. Hating Christianity first. Before the Jews, they hate God. They hate Christ. They hate Christianity. And so you have, let me go back to my point and remember my point. I forgot it. It's almost 15 minutes here. I get on a rabbit trail and I forget. I'm a writer, not a talker, man. I can talk, obviously, but I can't. I'm used to writing and being able to go back and pick up where I left off when I forget something or got distracted. But you have, I just go back to how do I get along with people? I'm sorry I left off that other point. But how do I get along? To summarize this video, I do all I can to get along. So I have to be. You're not supposed to be a pacifist. This is the hard part. I have to be a pacifist in a sense and obey. I have to obey. If I'm at shelters, everybody has to obey the black gangs, the black Muslim. They all come together. It doesn't matter if it's black Muslim or black gang. They all end up coming together and joining. If anybody, especially white, would speak against them. And so there's a few black folks I've been rescued by black folks before, from those other black folks, right? So those aren't black folks. Those are black Muslims and black gangsters. They're not folks. You know what I mean? So and some of them are mentally ill, right? A lot of them are mentally ill followers of the gangs. And they've been mentally ill because they poisoned them. I mean, basically, they poisoned their brains with all kinds of weird stuff. So that's why I fight for drug legalization, not legalization. To put it specific, I'm going to do a short video on this, 15 seconds. In 15 seconds, what should our medicine laws be? They should be, I like holding this crooked, believe it or not. I'll see how that turns out. So they should be, this is it, 15 seconds. Legalize the medicinal plants that God created, and put them in licensed places still, like not necessarily a liquor store, because you don't want somebody mixing. I thought about this recently. You don't want somebody mixing a medicinal plant with alcohol. You shouldn't mix stuff, really. Okay, you can mix a drink with orange juice to dilute it. Now, some people are going to say we're against drinking altogether. I don't think that's biblical. Now, I'm not promoting drinking. I promote abstinence. Let's just start with that. I promote abstinence. I'm into abstinence. But for the people that do it, we need safer venues. We need to educate people to be nutritional. If we're going to have rehabs, we need to get rid of cigarettes and coffee in the rehabs, and then have separate rehabs that say it's just a rehab from the drug you have a problem with, or alcohol that you have a problem with, or it's a rehab from illegal substances. But those aren't real rehabs. A real rehab will take you off of caffeine, take you off of cigarettes, and you're really fighting to see what it's like to be sober, all the way sober, and having a nutrition program and exercise program, and study the Bible. I mean, bottom line, study life, study philosophy, and study jobs. Study not regular college, but trade schools type stuff. Have that material. That's what we need in the prison system. We need it in shelters. We need it, in rehabs. And there's a lot that needs to be improved. But in my 15 seconds of how we should fix the laws, and this does affect the black culture, I'd say more than the white culture even. Not anymore now. It's almost the same. But the Democrats, in my view, dumped just the way they're opening the borders to let the cartels in on purpose and let terrorists in on purpose. And some good people come in and they say that you're discriminating against those good people by saying that you're letting terrorists across and you're letting cartels across, and then there's some good people coming across too. Yeah, but you're letting the bad ones across too, right? So, but they're purposely letting the cartels across, purposely letting terrorists across, purposely letting false religions across, and cults, real cults. The Trump cult is not a cult; it's a Christianity. So you have. And that's a new quote I'm going to pop up on Facebook, and they'll block it so nobody can see it. But it's that's a great reality point. Good reality point. It's very eye-opening, and they use that a lot. See, and that kind of that kills their fire sometimes if more people see the truth to that. Trump is not a cult; he's Christianity, right? And but then they'll say you can't talk religion to prove how you define a cult versus false religion and a false religion and a cult versus true religion, because you have no evidence of a God, no evidence of the power of life. False religion, all right. And then you have the Christians, the fake Christians or whatever, or perverted, distorted Christians that will say Christianity is not a religion. Christianity represents the only real religion. Wake up, people! Christianity represents the only real religion. So. Yeah, but it is a relationship, true. But it also represents the only real possibility of religion. So, come on. So all you do is you're playing into their hand and letting them claim religion. What is religion? It's all false belief in God? No. It's the study, it's the worship of God, it's the methods of which you worship God. There's different contexts and ways to define religion. So in one context, there's a context in the Bible that says true religion undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in the morning affliction, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. So that's James, book of James, I think chapter 3. I'm not sure, maybe chapter 2. But that's Jesus' brother saying that. That's one context of religion. That's the practice of religion. How do we practice religion in its best practice? And it's to take care of people. And that's Christian, probably taking care of your own Christian people that way, the widows, the fatherless. And but that's not the only context of religion. Religion is also thought of as which God do you worship, and which God do you formerly, what's the word? You gather together in an organized fashion to worship God, and the God you choose ends up representing what religion you are. And you label names to associate, like Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness. That's false religions too. Those are cults. They're antichrist. Those are antichrist. We could call them religion. Antichrist religion. Islam is an antichrist religion, but they're not. We call it religion, but those are not real religions. Those are deceptions. Do you understand? So that all has something to do with how do I get along with people? Because some people use those things because they're really antichrist. They go into those things to hate on the Bible. Every religion that was made to hate on the Bible is a hate group to hate on the Bible, the biblical religion. So they're not really religions. They're hate groups against Christ. So the only real religion is the Christian religion. The only religion that has a God that proved the power of life. All right. So I'm not allowed to say that stuff without getting hurt, and it really is. The Democrats are the ones that stop, and it's white Democrats that they've created this system. It's not just white. It's Al Sharpton. It's the slave masters. So when I look at a lot of black folks, they don't act like they're freedom lovers, or in the shelter system, in the gangs and the black Islam. They don't act like they're freedom lovers, and they don't act like they're. And then there's a lot of them that stick together with those that would be Christian or atheist because they just stick together because of the skin tone. So they got a lot of racism, and they're not. Some of them aren't fully racist, but they'll cling to their group just because of the color, but they'll sympathize with me sometimes, right? Some of them will, and then they're scared of, and then they have to worry about being harmed for talking to a white guy, for being friendly to a white guy. That's the friendly ones have to worry about that in those circles, the homeless circles. So you have, man, I forgot my point. Whew. Breather. I'm coming back. I'm right here. So you got, I don't want to bore you here. Sorry. I forgot my point. Go to the next point. You got religion plays into the factors of how we get along. Silencing people politically plays into the factors of how we get along. But I have to rise above. I think you should rise above and talk politics and law, 10 Commandments, which is politics, and how we should get along and hold people accountable. But a lot of these groups are thieving groups. They steal. They support stealing. They support jumping in front of the line and taking all the clothes if there's a clothes giveaway, getting all the food, and they get mad every time a white guy gets food, and they don't need food. They have white privilege. They do that, and then there's a lot of that's been worked out to where they've made peace, and some people don't. But then you get the groups that still come in and do that, and it's usually connected to black gangs. And I can't tell you if that's an Islamic gang or not, but the Islamic groups support that. The color just went out on this. Okay, and so I bought another cheap phone, a discounted phone, but it's a good phone except for the camera sometimes. But you have. So I get along. I'll put it like that. I get along. The Bible says to forgive, have mercy. And so what's frustrating, am I wasting my time making videos and doing things? I know I'm doing something I need to do, and I'm going to learn from it. I mean, because they block my videos so nobody can see them. A lot of times they don't put it, they put the algorithm so the public doesn't see it. And I already know that because I've had 5,000 views on one video. And it's not just about what time of day I put it up. Sometimes it is. But it's because it's not that all these people don't hate me that's never seen me before, but there's millions and millions of people on that view YouTube that don't know me and don't hate me yet. So they that and I'm not getting any views. So they have definitely put my new posts in places where they're not getting views, right? So, but I still put it up there hoping one person can hear it that has more talent than me for communication. And I'm not talented. I'm clever about communication and what I've done, but most of my communication tactics that are very clever, actually thought out and to be able to communicate, have been blocked by Democrats, right? So I'm not allowed, they don't want the truth going out there. So how do I get along with people when they're also brainwashed into thinking that the truth is evil or the truth is bigot? It has to be a bigot that's telling the truth. No, they hate Karen. They've created this thing where they hate Karens and all. And some Karens, they overdo it and they're a little annoying and all that kind of stuff. But they've got this new definition of Karen there. You know what I'm talking about, probably. But the people who will make sure somebody's following the rules or this or that. So there's ways to be tactful about that, and it's hard to do when you have a society that doesn't want to follow the rules, but because some rules seem frivolous in a way. But most rules are help you get along. It protects your property, protects your freedom of speech, protects your safety, and all that. And so you have to respect rules at some point. And these people that call people Karens, they don't respect them at all, and they call them Karens. So that, first of all, they're not supposed to hate Karens. You're supposed to love your neighbor, but they call them Karens, and they'll hurt those Karens. They want to hurt them, but they also do it. But some of them, the ones that have love that label, they want to be able to take over your house. They want to be able to take over your car. They want to take everything. And so those are the ones that make a big deal about Karen. And Karen's not really that big a deal. And also, because you can go to jail. Sometimes a Karen will get somebody caught to where they can get a jail charge. And today's jail charges don't make sense a lot of times. You pay too much for a ticket for something minor when it's minor stuff. But I mean, the fact is, the ones making the biggest deal about it are the ones that want to kill people and hurt people, steal from people. And those are a big deal. And we need to start realizing those are big deals. And if you're a good Karen and somebody that will take a risk and doesn't mind being called Karen, you are helping society. If people are being informed about who's a thief, a regular thief, not falsely accused, and even if it's some minor stuff, they need to be taught not to steal. And there's a lot of people who would hate me for saying that, but if they listen for 1 second, or anybody listens for 1 second, they know it's the truth. If they hear it for just a couple times, they know that is not loving your neighbor, and that is a big time. That's a sin against society that we have to be able to enforce. We need to enforce those kinds of sins, particularly the most, because bottom line, lying against your neighbor falls under stealing from your neighbor, and it gets people killed. It's stealing our whole country when you've lied about racism like you have for so long. The Democrats have for so long, and the black problem I have with, in general, is that I don't see many black people on the good, supposed, I guess, good side. I hope they're not hypocrites, a lot of them. But they'd never stand up against false accusations of racism. I won't say that. I know people that do on Facebook, and then the black Republican side, they'll stand up against false accusations of racism. But as far as, see, the camera just keeps turning on me. I keep on red, blush. I'm not blushing. That's the camera. Now, I got it. Better angle. But you have all these false accusations of racism that has allowed Islam to take over. It's allowing Islam to take over. There's no freedom of speech. It's allowed. They've supported the people. It's not just the media's fault that they silence truth. You've got that whole culture supporting the Democrat voters, white and black alike, supporting, applauding, and tuning in and not opposing the Democrat media that won't let anybody tell the truth because you want what you want. So you got a lot of atheists, God haters, murderers, and all that supporting the Democrat Party, telling everybody they can't tell us not to kill. Whatever. So we have to be able to be a Karen to a degree and be able to say, thou shalt not kill. And then you got the side of the Democrat Party that has all the mimickers. You shouldn't kill, and they hold everybody way more accountable. They'll falsely accuse all these Republicans of being potential killers and all this stuff. Well, we're all potential killers, all of us. Yeah, everybody can lose their temper and possibly potentially kill somebody. Anybody can. But most people have learned how to control their temper and make that steer clear from that. And everybody's been in a situation in their life where they could have lost their temper and gone overboard and attempted to kill somebody at least. And they controlled it. And for whatever reason, ran from the temper, didn't want to go to jail, knew that they should go to jail if they do, or could go to jail, knew that they could, or didn't want to, or they thought about the repercussions. But some people going, they can get angry enough to where you don't care about the repercussions. People can get angry like that. But that's anybody, Republicans or Democrat. But so all of a sudden, because we're holding people, real murderers, active murderers, who will enslave people by threatening to kill them, they also make slaves by, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to kill you. That's what the Democrats do all the time within the homeless communities. It translates down to that, and they're hypocrites about that. They turn around and be hypocrites. They got smart people like Hillary Clinton that switch it and make it look like it's the side who's against all that stuff, who actually believes in being a Karen and speaking against that stuff. And that doesn't mean because somebody is Karen that they don't hold themselves accountable. So, but by the way, so since I've stood up for some of these Karens, I don't agree with all the Karens' methods, but since I've stood up for it, I can tell you somebody's going to label me. Possibly, if they label me as a Karen, which is not something I'm into. I don't like to have to. I would like to not have to be the enforcer of anything. I'd like to be the philosopher, and the one qualifying it, and I'll let some other people do that work. But yeah, you're right. I'm for some Karens surviving, but good ones, not good Karens, not bad Karens, right? I am for some good Karens, not bad Karens. And so, but the purpose in somebody labeling me as a Karen is they know that somebody in the streets will kill me. They know somebody in the shelter system will kill me. They expect somebody to kill me or stab me or scare me into not talking. And there's a few of them that won't give you a chance to even say I'm sorry or this or that or anything. And then it's for stuff you shouldn't even have to be sorry for. They'll kill you. And so the Democrats know that's going on. In the media, they know they've created that. That's what's that called? Psychological warfare. But they've created it, and they've used lies to do all those things. So anyway, this got long. So how do you get along with people? Well, you do. Okay, so say I have optimism, and reasonably, because I can have mercy on people because I have heaven. I'm confident I'm going to heaven. I'm pretty confident most of those who disagree with me are going to hell. Not because they disagree with me, but because they disagree. If they disagree with me because they hate Christ, they're not going to Christ's heaven. That's the only heaven there is. Christ's heaven is the only heaven there is any evidence for. And so I know I'm going to Christ's heaven, right? I trust that 100%. Now, I can, on the speculation side, I can say, well, what if I'm wrong? Well, I don't think I'm wrong at all. But if I happen to be wrong, what have I lost? I've lived caring about other people to try to take a chance and risk my life to tell the truth about what really matters. Not the truth for the purpose of hounding somebody. Not the truth about, somebody did something wrong and I'm hounding them. Not that kind of truth. The truth about life and the truth. They're forgiven. First of all, I do think you need to know the truth about some of those things. If somebody's hurt somebody else, come down to who's guilty, this and that, or whatever, and don't blame the victim. Find the truth, and but don't bash them. It's not for bashing purposes. It's for resolving the problem, making sure that somebody's not dangerous in our society. This video was supposed to be short, but so when I get along with people, I do swallow my tongue. I do be more of a pacifist. The battle is, do I be a pacifist? Because at times you have to be a pacifist to stay alive. But when do you draw the point and not be a pacifist? Here's why I say that too, because I've been to a point where I took a stand and I wasn't a pacifist. I stood for Christ in the middle of Islamic people in shelters where there's supposed to be leaders that believe in the Bible and this and that, and they won't back me up. They won't support me. They don't stick up for me. And then I wasn't a pacifist. Now I'm about to get killed, and by standing up for Christ and for that belief. And talking politics, putting them in politics, saying we're allowed to have the freedom to speak. Well, so then what are the Christian leaders doing there? They practically side with the Muslim and say, you're not supposed to talk politics or religion. Just don't talk politics or religion in here. And so that doesn't help me any. So should I have been a pacifist? No, I'm not a complete pacifist because I'm really just I'm having to obey so I don't get killed. With a lot of people, and just get along, and then I'm hoping bottom line. I hope God's Holy Spirit shows through that. So if I'm going to overboard to being pacifist, though, that's not. That's not. God gives the spirit of does not give the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So what I do, I change the subject, and I just wait for a later time for it to come up. I let them see forgiveness, mercy, uh, French, the ability to be friendly and peaceful. I let them see peacemaking. So that's what I do, and I don't think that's a bad. There's really no other option, And so I let myself stay alive to make this video, And so maybe somebody else is helped by it. They're not the only person in the world that needs to hear salvation. We're supposed to walk away from that. But these are situations where you live and run across people again, and you walk away from when they reject. But if they let you talk, they let you talk. So there are some black Muslims I get along with. But in general, we'll just sum this video up because it's not going to download maybe. I don't get along. I've had, and I won't say it's me, it's not my fault. But there's black Muslims that don't get along with me. And then the ones that do, they're usually trying to test me, try me, and keep talking me out of believing in Christianity. And then sometimes I've swayed some a little bit and made them wake up a little bit. Then they just don't want to give up their views because they're invested in it. Now, some of them, those are the ones that are involved with, I don't know what, I'm not going to go into that, but some of them, different ones, they have different reasons. They have certain things they don't want to let go of, and their belief system helps them they get money from it or whatever, or that's how they get their girlfriends or whatever they do. So they don't want to give it up, but they can't, but they'll keep finding some reason not to believe in Christ in the Bible. The ones that are friendly enough to talk to me. And you still don't, and then they'll also, some of them that are friendly enough to talk to me or have tried to trick me into getting alone with them somewhere. I've had that happen and not for friendly reasons. And it's pretty obvious. So I do get along. Other than that, there's a lot of the black folks are bound to those groups, but the good ones, and so I get along with them, say hello, bye. I don't want to get them hurt by talking to them. I don't want them I'm usually thinking, I better not talk to this friendly black person because I don't want them to get hurt by the black Muslims. Bottom line, stuff like, or the gangsters. And then, so in those circles, the drug, some of them might have an addiction here and there, or some of them may have it worse. And that can be good ones. And so, because medicine, I never did do my medicine. I'm going to do my medicine thing and close out. But I try to get along. I get along with Hispanic people. I get along with Asian people. Asian people are usually the easiest to get along with, frankly. They just don't talk much. Some of them don't speak English, but they're easygoing. I mean, they tend to be. Now, I've met some from Chinese women that come here. Hey, get away from me, white guy, you racist mother. They call me racist like the black gangs trained her to do. And doesn't even know me. And screaming at the top of their lungs. And that's somebody that's on drugs too. And they're screaming, trying to call all white people racist. There's a few of those recently, but for the most part, Asian people are very easygoing. And Arabs, they're usually rich. I mean, I don't see them much. I'm not rich. So imagine that. But then Hispanics are workers. They're the worker types, and they can be a little judgmental. But I get along with Hispanic on theory and stuff. But they're busy people. They're busy about their business. And so our society being that busy-minded about all that, I don't agree with all that necessarily. But generally, the ones I can't talk to some people that I want to talk to, or that seem like they would get along, want to talk here and there. Of course, we get tired. There's the tired factors. There's the hungry factors. There's the my mind's blank because I've been worn out or whatever. When do you talk? When does it make sense to talk about something like that? You don't just jump into these kind of conversations. So people shouldn't want to hurt me because you could turn this off. You don't have to listen to it. Now, if you want to hurt me because you don't want to hear this stuff out when we're talking, well, fine. I'm not going to talk about it. We're not going to fight over it. Just walk away peacefully. But they don't want to do that. Some of them may hear stuff on here they don't like and want to kill over it. Is anything I say death penalty worthy? No. The death penalty should come for if you kill somebody, then you deserve a death penalty. Now, mercy is promoted, but those same people vote against the death penalty for other killers, right? But they would want to kill me over just some words I say. And maybe they won't. I don't know. I haven't used to do a lot of videos. This is new. And this video may not record if I don't stop it now. It may not work. So unfortunately, I did not finish that subject, but I get along the best I can with people. And I hope, the bottom line is, I hope that there's a chance later, if we run across paths again, eventually they realize I'm peaceful. So what's the point? What's the point in hurting me? Get along with, they can enjoy the peace. I think the peace of God, I let the peace of God be shown through that, is my view. And I let the Holy Spirit do the work. There's no words, but when you're around people and they just get along and they don't bother you, they don't steal from you. I'm not stealing from anybody. So what do you hate me for? I mean, I don't know how people steal and don't worry about revenge. But, first of all, but I don't steal. They know I don't do that. And anyway, so now sometimes they don't want to let me eat or whatever, a few of them. But for the most part, that stuff's worked out over the years. That was worse a few years back. For the most part, I think people have argued their point there, and it's not as many times. And I guess it still can be in some cities where the white guy has to go to the back of the line to eat, and white guy has to go to the back, but they don't get any clothes. The gangs get all the clothes, or if you need clothes or whatever. And usually, especially in winter, you need clothes, extra clothes. But so they do have their people make sure they get the clothes, and they actually believe white privilege. A lot of them rationalize that by saying if somebody's white, they don't need it. They got help somewhere else. They got white privilege. So black privilege has been taken and given to the Palestinians that support Hamas now. The black privilege of being able to lie about who attacked who, and then have 1 million people marching against the person that beat them. So you got a racist black person attacking a police officer, and then he gets hurt, and then you get 1 million people marching. They're using that same tactic with Hamas now, and people aren't falling for it though. So they're not falling for it. Even the ones that they tricked the most by it, they're not falling for it because they just know. I mean, this isn't black and white issues that you can play games on and hide and be sneaky about. It was obvious that Hamas blew up Israel, blew them up, and they're chopping kids' heads off. We got it on video and everything else. And so some of these Palestinian Hamas people don't want to believe it, but they've also been lied to about what the Quran says. A lot of them. Some of them haven't been taught to read. But these guys, but the ones in college, I think they can read, right? So so they're just supporting Hamas, the terrorist group. But here's the thing, though. All of Islam hates Christ. They hate Christ. So does Mormons. So does Jehovah's Witnesses. And so do Democrats. Right? They all hate Christ. They all support these groups over Christ. I don't care if you say you're a Christian. If you're voting Democrat, you've always supported the fairness of letting Islam proclaim it's equal with Christ. And you don't, and therefore, you're not one of Christ's. So I'll end on that.